Now we are live.
Are we live?
We are live with 0 viewers thus far.
We got 0 viewers. That's baloney.
1 now.
1? Who's here? Who's here? We see you. We don't know who you are, but we see you. Are you a troll or are you a real person? Are you just
Well, there should be others on the panel shortly.
Oh, look at that. There you go. We got them. I see you. I see you. There's more. They're coming in like crazy now. Holy smackaroonies.
What is up, all? Pete, nice to see you. Come on.
Yeah. We should have a party and invite everybody on. Whoever wants to come on.
Thank you, Demon. Yeah, it's a party.
We should just have a party and invite everybody on and just have a good time. Let's celebrate it now. Come on.
What's up, George?
One more time.
I don't know this Sayer guy from Canada, but we'll leave him alone.
Yeah, he looks sketchy.
What's up, Anthony? How you doing tonight?
What's Sayer Canadian Diesel? That guy looks sketchy. I'm just going to judge him based off his name and nothing else.
What's up, Shannon?
Oh, wow. You got a blue wrench there. Look at that. Shannon Dickerson, the blue wrench.
What's up, Adam? Nice to see you jump on.
Oh, yeah. Can we load up the... How many people can you get on your stream, Dave?
I don't know. Like, probably upwards of 10.
10 people?
There's the link if anybody wants it. Chinese are welcome too.
Chinese are welcome too. Look at that guy. There's that Canadian Diesel guy.
Sorry about that, eh?
I don't believe this is you. Is this AI?
Yep, it is.
Is it AI?
My name is actually Binder, and I'm from Pakistan. How are you doing today?
You look fake to me.
Yeah. I still want to know how you got that tool I sent you from Pakistan. I don't even know where he's at. But I sent a tool to Pakistan and it's in Turner's hands. That's all I can tell you, folks.
I thought
it was a joke. I didn't care about the tool. I'm like, this is a joke. Some guy's going to receive this and he's going to wonder, he's going to think it's a bomb or something in Pakistan. The next thing you know, Turner shows he's got it.
Oh, wow. Look at how, too. He said he's pretty pissed off a whole day doing simple front ass struts on a Malibu. I would love to hear that.
What went wrong, Anthony? Tell us what went wrong on the strut job.
Yes,
I mean, that sounds like I could see where that would be a bad day.
From Michigan or Canada.
Yeah.
It's very rusty.
I could see where that day. I could see exactly how that would be a bad day because, yeah, there's a guy. Here's something that we can kind of talk about, address. There's a guy who's got a bigger YouTube who was running down shops saying that all shops are crooks and that they were going to charge him $700 to do a heater core in a 70s K5 Blazer, which I think is hilarious. Basically, they were telling him they didn't want his business, which I doubt they offered him $700 because that's probably a 4-hour job, 3-hour job maybe to do a heater core. But the fact of the matter is that when you know that you're going to work on old junk like that, even though it wasn't looking like junk, chances are you're going to have problems with rust or corrosion. It's just going to be a pain and you could end up in a bad situation. So you quote somebody higher, which a lot of people don't realize because I do that too. I say, look, you want a heater core in a 2001 Dodge. It's going to be a new dash pad because the thing's going to destroy itself. And if it doesn't, then you don't get charged that. More misconceptions with the general public. The clowns are trying to drive the car.
I usually try to look at the vehicle before if I see oodles and oodles of rust, I turn around and say, high side it's going to be this much, low side this much. We're going to aim for the low side, but it all depends on all that rust.
Right. Well, the chances are that most of the time they call in and ask you. You know what I mean? Like half the time people won't come in. I mean, I get more phone calls of people saying, "Hey, how much to do this?" And I have to go, well, what's, I ask questions, of course. They're not going to tell you the truth. Oh, it should be a simple job. I looked it up on YouTube. Okay. Yeah. Then why don't you do it?
Yeah. So that's the thing is that the when I get phone calls like that, people just asking for a quote, I just turn around and say, I can't give you an honest quote until I see the vehicle. I'm sorry. Like right. You can schedule an appointment for me to come out, take a look at it, or you can bring it to me and I'll take a look at it. But
that's definitely the best case scenario.
Wants to join in, just join in.
That's definitely the best option for them to do, without a doubt. For sure.
I mean, I've been burned way too many times in the past getting quotes over the phone.
Right. So how does that translate? Because a guy gives you a quote for $700 and you don't get the work done if he's a crook. You're not paying for my time. You're paying for my experience. That's what I always tell people.
Yeah.
The book time might be 3 hours, but it doesn't matter. You're paying for my experience. So if I get it done in an hour, you're paying for the 3 hours. If you have problems that I know that I'm going to inhibit, you're going to pay for that experience.
Yeah.
And people, and I don't ever, I've never ever told anybody, you have to have me fix your car. Why is it that people are so entitled these days that they think that because you're a mechanic, you should give them a good deal instead of them fixing their own cars? Because I'm willing to give you the information and have you fix it yourself. No problem with that whatsoever. No problem whatsoever. Like, you are more than welcome. I have no problem with having business. You are more than welcome to fix your car.
Yeah.
Had a guy brought me his trailer, but he said the bearings out of it. And I said, well, dude, the bearings are only like $12. They're pretty easy to change. And he's like, well, I don't know how to do it. And I said, okay, well, it's going to be $200. And he said, $200 to put bearings in? I said, I treat it like it's my own equipment. And I said, I would do it that I would put new bearing buddies, new bearings, high dollar bearings, good bearings in it. And he didn't like that. So why should I charge somebody less for my experience?
Yep. I always get those. I always love the ones that say, "Well, I know a guy that can do it cheaper." Well, why didn't you take it to him in the first place? Why didn't you go to him? Well, I just wanted to see what your price was. Okay, well, obviously you don't like my price. Go to him. And then they sit there and go, "But come on, you got a guy that can do it cheaper. Go to him. Why are you sitting here arguing with me? Just go to him."
Well, how come you never hear about, like, Sergio's here, so this is great. How come you never hear about heating and cooling specialists, plumbers? I mean, they charge way more money than most mechanics do as far as repair stuff. I mean, it's, I just had a hot water heater put in, $3,000. I mean, it was $1,100 in labor to put it in.
Yeah. And
it took them an hour to do it.
What's the electrician union paying down there right now? What is it, like 67 right now or something like that?
I couldn't even tell you.
It's like 84 an hour up here now.
Yeah, it's more than that. I think it's
labor. Where?
We're talking about tradesmen getting slammed for being crooks. It's not just necessarily mechanics, but I see it on social media all over the place, Sergio. It's not as much. I don't see as much with the other tradesmen, but like plumbers, I never hear plumbers getting bagged on. It's always mechanics or crooks.
Yeah.
But I do hear about you electricians and plumbers.
No, I think it's because we as mechanics are paying more attention to the info about mechanics because like that's the thing that I know on YouTube there's a whole entire barrage of people that are after, like, lawyers and and even coffee shops and stuff like that right now going, it's just ridiculous to have to pay that much for this stuff.
So it says, according to the Des Moines Salary.com, it says that union electricians are getting paid $40 an hour right now.
Wow,
Base salary, 40-hour week.
Wow. That's still not too bad, though.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
Sergio.
you're right. You're totally right, Sergio. Shit's backing up in your house, and you tell them it's going to be, $250 just to come out and take a look at it, and then they tell you it's going to be another $1,000 to solve the problem or more.
But a journeyman electrician showing $64,000 to $100,000 a year. Why should a mechanic make less than that?
Yeah.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, what's up?
I don't think anyone that's got their 4-year or their journeyman should be making less anywhere in any trade less than $100,000 a year. No way in hell. Like that's the thing is if you actually take the time to actually do all the training, all the courses, all the book work, and the required hours and meet the standards and that like no, you are worth $100,000 a year guaranteed in my eyes. So.
Well, the thing is about a mechanic. The thing is about a mechanic is a mechanic has bad days. Like Anthony's probably going to tell us about this Malibu. You have days where you run into situations where book time just went completely out the window, and some job that should have been a simple job went from a 2-hour job to an 8-hour job. And that's what happened.
All day. It was my fault, though.
Oh, was it?
Well, so it's a 2018 Malibu, and was putting front struts in it. So I went on Saturday. I was like, "Oh, it'll take me an hour, real quick, do it real fast, so I don't have to do it Monday." And I got other shit to do Monday. Well, the shop has a spring compressor, like a whole setup over there, but I don't use it. I use my own. I use some clamp ones that I have.
The Widowmakers.
And so I compressed it, and the fucking thing wouldn't compress all the way. And I was like, and I had already took out the nut. I didn't realize it. So I was trying to put the new one back. I was like, this spring's got to be compressed like another 4 or 5 inches to get the nut back on. Now I'm trying everything to get it put on. I have the parts guy order a spring compressor, the little cheap one from like O'Reilly's. That doesn't work. I thought it was going to compress it more. Didn't work. I tried to use the lift. We were doing some sketchy shit, and I was like, "What the fuck? Why?" Like, there's just no way that nobody has done an 18 and put struts in it. Somebody in the shop has to have put struts in the fucking 18 Malibu already. But like, we had to have done this already with no issues. Well, come to find out, I guess when you do those struts, you're supposed to use some other adapter. It's like a bridge. It's just all it is, a piece of steel that goes like that, and it has two clips on the end. And I guess you use the compressor tool, but you put that bridge on top, and then your forks, your 3 forks, go over that bridge, and it compresses it.
What kind of compressor you guys have? Is it a Brannick, an OTC?
Oh man, I don't know what it is. It's not even the fucking GM tool that we're supposed to have. It's just
I think the Brannick strut compressor is probably one of the best.
Nothing wrong with the Snapon.
Well, I think that's the one we're supposed to have. Is that's what GM's tool listing is for? Is that one? But we don't have it. We have one that looks like every other one that gets mounted to the wall with the circle up top and the 3
So true.
So I just was missing that stupid bridge. The bridge is what actually keeps the strut mount. It goes over the mount, and then you can compress it even more. So I wasted like 4 hours trying to. I was pissed. I was like, I could have had this done in an hour had I. Well, I ended up sending in the part number to parts. I was like, hey, do we have this other piece? And he goes, so he wrote me back, and he goes, oh yeah, I pulled it out for you. As soon as I got that, in and out. But I'm glad I wasted Saturday rather than a Monday. I got other stuff to do on Monday. But now I know for next time.
Yeah, I guess it's a plus. It happened on a
I've
Saturday.
just never had. I personally have never had any car for that matter, let alone a Chevy, not be able to compress all the way with the tool that I have, or even the other ones. So that's why I was like, what am I doing wrong? This doesn't make any sense.
I'm trying to see what this tool looks like.
What tool?
The tool for the bridge that he's talking about.
Yeah, the one that I got, it's got cups that go over top of the spring.
Right.
And it just presses the whole thing down on a stand. So you just put the cup over it, and then you put it down, and you get your nut on there started, and that's all. That's the one that I use.
I've never done a Malibu strut, so I guess I don't have a clue. Now I'm concerned.
And it's funny because I just did a cruise.
Buy quick struts solves all the problems.
A little different. Yeah, the cruise has different struts, I would assume, and my tool works on that one perfect. So I think this is the one you're talking about. This is similar to what we have, but not. Ours doesn't have those two adjustments right there. But I'm trying to find that. I don't know exactly what it is.
It's because the Malibu sits so fucking low.
Yeah, the coil spring.
There's not enough spring on it. The coil spring's not real tall.
Yeah, there's not enough coil for.
Trust me, I'm sitting in one right now. It's got a tiny coil spring in it.
Yeah, it's tiny, so it doesn't have a lot of coils to compress. Man, it's funny. It doesn't even come up. I would have to log in and.
No, they made an adapter to put in there and give you another 1.5 inches or something like that to smush the spring down.
Yeah, it was just I've never had to use that. I've actually seen that on a couple other cars. I think I've seen that on a few other cars, but it's never bothered. Like I've never bothered to use it.
You have to do that when you do coilovers on like a 95, 96 Mustang. You got to do the same thing if you're swapping springs over.
Yeah.
If you use the stock springs, you have to put a spacer in there.
I was just trying to figure something out, and I just couldn't come up with anything. I was like, this is stupid.
Because like the one that I posted in the private chat, I just finished getting that one to carry in my truck, so I don't have to carry my big one around. Because I got one of the shop ones, but like I said, it uses cups, and it's encumbrance and dragging that thing out of the bus, putting it in the truck, driving to the job. So I got one of these, and it actually worked pretty good. I haven't found a strut that it hasn't compressed yet. So.
No. Okay, so here's the part number right here. Search this, and you can see it. Yeah, so like I said, we have the just like everybody else. So if you look up this part number, it's a CH-48845-10, and that's what you have to use.
What was that? CH45?
No, 48845-10.
Ah, I see one.
Yeah. So that goes over the strut mount, and then once it and even then our like I said, our strut compressor is so jacked up, like the forks are like the teeth are almost gone, so it doesn't really like grip the actual coil. Like I had to use my pry bar, and I was holding it. It was a hassle.
I'm only familiar with the Brainiac one, primarily. That's the only one I've ever used, really.
I've used the Brainiac and OTC. What do they call it?
So check.
I don't know. It's an OTC one. Strut. I think they call it a Strut Tamer.
So
I would like to use the one that Cornwell's got, or the
that's a brand.
We have one similar to this, but ours doesn't have those adjustment things right there where the red things are. Those two red. But it's the same thing. But like I said, our forks are missing like the teeth, like the little grooves are like messed up. But it just, I don't know. We need a new one. And then like I said,
who is it that has a?
Thanks for joining in, Leeser. Nice to see you on.
Is it
one.
There's a new strut compressor out by well, I don't know that they're building it, but it's what's the green one? What's the green company from Germany?
I think we have a OTC strut. I want to say it's a Strut Tamer, and then we have the Brainiac one. We don't use it that much anymore. We usually sell quick struts most of the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say quick strut. I mean, the dealer don't sell quick struts, so we don't get by. The used car guys maybe, but for us,
our shop we sell quick struts. So if you go that route, we usually try to go high end. We don't go with like Monroe like what they call it, Monroe OE Spectrums or whatever.
Oh yeah.
We try to go with KYBs or whatever the car. I think KYB is the original supplier for General Motors on most of their struts. But we try to go higher end, try to keep the ride the same if we're going to go quick struts. If we don't go quick struts, it's no big deal. We got two compressors at our shop that will get the job done.
I mean, swapping is not a big deal. It's just, I mean, sometimes the car's got 100,000 miles, 150,000. Might as well replace the coil. I know a guy that will argue that it's best to have the original OEM coils, but at 100,000, I mean, how much better are they than something else?
Certain cars are real picky about their original coils. Certain cars aren't. I haven't had too many problems on Ford and General Motors vehicles using aftermarket coils. But I've had some issues on Hondas. I've had some issues with Nissans using an aftermarket coil. The car just not liking it.
I've actually been having really good with a generic brand called Suspensia. They actually have been doing really good. I've been installing them for like the last 6 months on like ordering them. They're really low, like cheap in price, but quality is actually pretty good. I don't know where they're
bad for how cheap they are.
But my parts vendors, they've got a whole bunch of these Suspensia struts in, and they're nice.
Yeah, I'm about to order me some struts for my Tahoe off Amazon.
You got a Tahoe? Get rid of those struts and put the air system in. Get rid of those struts.
Hell no.
The air system in. Come on.
You know what? A customer came in with a Tahoe the other day, and it was out of warranty, and it had, I think one of the struts was blown.
Yeah.
And I think the repair on that thing was like, it was like $1,000 for one strut, parts and labor. And I was like, what the hell? Like, that's insane. But because it's an air suspension strut, the strut alone, I think, was like $700, $800 just for the strut.
Yeah. But I tell you, it's a nice ride in at auto levels.
Well, yeah. We've seen a lot of them where the front struts will lock up. Yeah. The ones without air suspension, they just lock up. Just a horrible ride.
Jags used to do that. The ones that had adjustable ride height, the big Jag sedans.
Wow.
They had a kit to delete it. KYB sold a kit with a coil-over shock you put in there, and you just plug the lines and the little distribution block.
I did those on the what was it, the Mark 8s, the Mark 7s.
Lincolns?
Yep.
Lincoln.
Yeah, and remember the ones with the airbags?
Yep.
Yep.
The town cars. They had a
You
spring
always-
kit for them.
You still see them, and they're like this driving down the street.
Yep.
How'd
Yeah,
you
they
get with the
sell
airbags
a whole
flat?
spring kit for all those cars now. They have
God,
sold them for years.
those things were crazy when they would bleed down and the car would like collapse. You'd fire it
Yep.
up, and after about 15 minutes, the thing would pump up and it'd look fine.
The Lincoln Navigators do it bad too.
Yeah,
Believe it or not.
I haven't seen a Navigator lately, but I do still see
Oh God.
the car they roll by and they're sagging.
How many of you guys ever owned an old Chevy station wagon that had the had the tire inflator on underneath the license plate to lift up your air shocks in the back?
I didn't know that.
I've never seen that unless it was installed aftermarket.
Yeah, I was gonna say my
Chevy
buddy
used to install them on their wagons and a couple of their what was it? The
I never
Nova's
seen
factory with air shock.
I
That's
never
cool.
seen
Never
that
seen it.
air shocks from the factory.
Yeah,
No?
Here in the United States, you had to add that on. I never seen that
Well,
factory.
back then in those old wagons, I could see where that happened.
It
my
was a
buddy did it like
dealership
with
option.
Alpino.
Dealership
Well,
option that we up here we were able to get. They'd actually install the air shock and it would be behind your license plate. You'd open it up, you put your tire pump in there, start pumping it up.
You're talking about like
Believe it or not, the Canadians actually did.
Yeah, he's talking 80s.
yeah.
Canadian GM did a couple of things right. They did a couple of things right up there. They put small block Chevys in Firebirds,
Yep.
and some of the other Pontiacs and Olds and Buicks. You know, that was the right thing to do. And they made some oddballs.
Well, see, they knew that we were going to use that station wagon to pull the fifth wheel and haul logs out of the forest. So,
Jesus Christ.
We had oh man. So there's somebody who works at my job. I guess they had like a 95 1500 OBS. Apparently they said it cranks, but it didn't start. I mean, this thing is a piece of it belongs in the junkyard. So one of our pretty good techs has it. I walk out there. I'm like, what's up with this heap of shit? He's like, oh, it's what's her names. They say it doesn't crank, or it cranks, but it don't start. So then he's like trying to find out why it doesn't crank, and he's jumping down a rabbit hole. He's jumping the starter. We're doing all this. One of our world-class guy comes over and fires right up. And he's like, what the hell did you do? He goes, oh, you just have to turn the key really hard. He's like, oh my God. So now we get it to crank. The first thing I said when I heard it, I was like, we're cranking it. And I'm like, bro, that engine don't sound good. He's like, nah, they all sound like that. And I'm like, nah, bro. I had a 90, same engine. Mine did not sound like that when it cranked. And he's like, nah. So they're trying to start it. It's got no fuel. Putting brake clean, it still won't start. So then we retime it because I think it was wrong. Retimed it. After about 30 minutes, I walked away. I was like, I'm out of here. And he walks by me 20 minutes later, and he's got all the push rods out, and they're all shaped like an S, and then like an L. They went down S and then bent at the bottom. It was horrible. I don't even know how he got them out. I was like, well, that engine's junk. Who knows what happened to that? I was like, I don't even know why we're working on stuff that's that old.
Well, the old stuff needs to be fixed. I just don't like having to be the one doing it.
Yeah, that's
not up here where I live, anyway.
I get it. I get excited when I see old stuff. Nostalgia.
It depends, man. I mean, me and my buddy, we're the only ones that get Corvettes. He's tired of getting them because it seems like we're the fucking Corvette guys. And it's like, what the hell?
And have good
nobody
night.
wants to work on a Corvette. So every Corvette we get, we usually fix them. But it just sucks, man. We have to wait for parts. They don't make parts. They discontinue parts. So
making sure you get the right injectors on the old on the old fuel injected carbureted system. You got two
you have to be.
They look the same, but they're not the same.
You have to be careful on the L83 engines on the Silverados. You have to be careful not to get the wrong injector either. You actually need to pull it out and read the numbers and get the right one. I'll give you a perfect example. We have a bulletin on it, but I'll give you a perfect example of how incompetent Firestone is. They had a basic Silverado with an L83, and it had a misfire on, we'll just say, cylinder 2. I don't know what their diag process was, but for some reason, they installed a new coil, a new spark plug, a new wire, and it still had a misfire. So they proceeded to put a fuel injector in it, and it still had a misfire. On top of that, they put the wrong injector because they didn't read it and then get the correct part. So then they sent it to us. And we told them, hey, guess what? It's got to get torn down. Something, I already know it's a lifter, but I mean, how did they not figure that out after they replaced all 4 things that could possibly cause a misfire? So it ended up being lifters.
Yeah, let us know, Shad, what you come up with. Oh, that's the whole problem. That's why I left Firestone. That was the whole problem.
Oh.
Firestone that I worked at, we had quite a few competent techs there. But all my surrounding Firestones had a bunch of idiots. I felt as though if I kept working there, it was going to give me a bad name. So I left because they hired too many, what would you say, breathing bodies.
I mean, we have seen a few. It's rare, but it does happen. We have seen a few where an L83 will come in and it'll have a misfire. Obviously, we check coil, plug, wire. Okay, it's internal. We'll pull the valve cover, and you pull the valve cover, and the rocker's moving. So okay, it's not collapsed. Doesn't mean that it didn't collapse at one point in time and mess up the cam. So we had one pull the valve cover, and we're like, oh, it's moving. It's good. So did a compression test. Perfect. Did a cylinder leak down. Perfect. The car was under warranty, so we were like, I was like, well, pull it apart. Pull the head off. And he's like, I don't want to pull the head off. What if we don't find anything? Well, what else can you do? There's nothing else to check. It's not an injector. It's nothing external. The only other thing is internal. And I was like, what probably happened is that the lifter probably collapsed or it came apart and then fixed itself, but it hit the cam, and the cam is probably causing the misfire. So he gave up, pulled the head. Sure enough, it actually had 2 bad lifters. I mean, and I'm talking, they were worn, and I couldn't believe that it wasn't squealing, wasn't chirping. It just had a solid misfire that wouldn't go away. Actually, it didn't even have a solid misfire. It had a minor misfire, real minor. We could see it on the scanner, but you couldn't tell that it was misfiring just by feeling the engine or driving it. You couldn't even tell.
Did it tear the cam up too?
Oh yeah. That's why we were like, how the hell did this not? Why is this?
It's amazing sometimes what you see, and you look at the info you had before you got into it, and you're like, how can it not throw more codes at me, not throw this?
Yeah.
How could it run as good as it did when you see the damage
it almost ran perfect. The only reason we knew it had a misfire is because the scanner was showing it would count up. It would start from 0, obviously. It would go up to maybe about like 40 and then reset. 40, 50, 60 reset. So a 40, 50, 60 misfire count, you can barely, I mean, the average Joe wouldn't even know that the car is misfiring. Like, you really have to sit there and be like, oh, dang, this thing has a slight misfire. And that's why he didn't want to pull it apart. But when we pulled it apart, two bad lifters, one that was on that cylinder and one that wasn't even on that cylinder. It was like a cylinder or two back, and we were like, "What the hell? How did that happen?" But I mean, it happens. He always gets lucky too. He gets a lot of the new engines, and it'll have a collapsed lifter or something, or a lifter go bad, and it won't destroy the cam. So all he does, just a simple lifter job on one side. Every one that I get always needs a cam, and I hate the new trucks. I don't like looking on the new trucks. I don't like the body style. The old one's a lot more easier.
So what's new in your world, Chad? Or left-handed stranger?
I'm the left-handed stranger. I'm just listening. I like to hear everybody. What's going on with Frosty, hero of the last desirable? What's that mean?
Less desirable.
Less desirable. What's that mean?
I don't know.
I am Frosty, the hero of the less desirable.
The downtrodden.
Huh?
The downtrodden.
Sound trottling?
The downtrodden.
Oh, the downtrodden.
Yeah, the lower class.
Yep, I'm right there with you. Hell, I get to listen to people who fucking literally don't know nothing tell me I'm an idiot and I'm an old head all day long.
Oh,
So,
God damn it. Yeah, I got a guy that just won't fucking listen. But he sweeps like nobody's business, so it's kind of give and take.
the lack of disrespect by some young techs nowadays, no disrespect to everybody that's in here, but the lack of disrespect to some younger techs these days is definitely, I feel, I used to get along with old guys when I was younger, and I looked up to a lot of them and really respected their help and experience, but man, oh man. I go into some of these shops now, and there's this one guy. He claims himself to be a Lexus Toyota expert, and he fucking thinks he is God's gift to mechanics everywhere. And that guy fucking has more comebacks than I've ever seen on. I mean, by Monday and Tuesday, he's already got his whole week playing out with comebacks, and then he complains about not getting any hours.
Well, the kids just don't take criticism very well. They take it too personal.
Well, I mean,
where I'm at, we have nothing but young guys except for. Well, when I mean young, I mean maybe 32 and below.
So when I think of a young guy in a shop, my young guy range is like 18 to 25.
Yeah,
that's what I think of as a young guy.
Yeah, that's
like
good.
The guys that are,
what is a young guy? What's a young guy?
Like the guys that are 25 to 35.
Folks. I'm not old. I'm just very experienced.
Right. Well, the guys that are usually 25 to 35 seem to.
They're all young punks to me.
I mean,
yeah.
We don't.
It's 18 to 25-year-olds that really don't get it. That's what I feel like.
I feel like my shop is full of young guys. Except for we have 1, 2, 3 guys that are over 40. One of them's close to 60. Don't look 60 by any means, but those guys are cool. It's just I don't need their help. If I do need help, I go and grab somebody else that might know more than them or just is more experienced in that and working on something than they are. Most of our older guys are either a tranny or a diesel guy,
right?
Or they're both. We have one guy; he's a tranny and diesel guy, and then the other guy's a tranny guy. So I don't necessarily
any tech still working in the industry that's 6 years old and still knows his shit. And I mean, like, actually still really knows his shit and is up to date. I give a lot of respect to. That's a long time to be in the industry and still be up to date.
Well, I feel like guys that are usually in their 50 to 65 range usually they don't give a fuck about working on too much new stuff. Their whole goal is they're there to do the things that they're good at doing, and they don't really care about much. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just they've earned their keep. In my opinion, they've already earned their keep, so they have earned that right to do that. And I admit, and everybody should earn that once you get through that. But like when you're fucking 21 and you think because you did oil changes in your driveway and fixed your neighbor's car for 3 years and then went to tech school and you just got out of fucking, your local tech school and you think that you know everything and you do nothing but screw stuff up and have comeback after comeback after comeback. Like the proof is in the pudding. When you have
at that age, you don't even know how to hold a wrench yet.
But there's also old guys too that have comebacks. I'm not saying it's
look at Leaser's comment.
Guy that shut my.
my buddy that he was I apprenticed
Thank you for that one.
before I went to the line. He's a tranny guy, and he did trannies since he was like.
There he goes again with the tranny guy thing.
Oh man, I tell you, he's got a fascination.
So I kind of get what you're saying but yeah, he's somewhat like that, but he's also had a helper for the last 5 years.
Well, most trannies do have a helper.
You're home? Okay.
Well,
for your tranny, man, you also gotta like doing rear ends too. So
I know that some. Every shop, the bigger the shop, there's always that one old guy who's just a really like, stay away from me, don't ask me for help, blah blah blah, and really, like he really doesn't want, and that's because he's helped out a lot of young guys and they burned him over the years. I do know that. I met a guy. His name was Tom. Everybody hated Tom. That was the guy when I worked at BMW. Tom was he was an a-hole, and everybody hated him. And I said, why does everybody hate him? Well, I was like, Dudley Moray was another guy that was an older guy, but he was from Hawaii, and he was just funny as shit. And he'd be like, "I want to be like you," but he knew his shit. He was a legendary Jaguar tech, one of the best ones we've had in this city ever. And Dudley, I used to say to Dudley, "Why is Tom such an asshole?" And he's like, "Well, because little guys like you come in here and always ask them dumb questions." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, Tom used to be the trainer for all the new tech. And he said he got burned out with fixing their shit all the time. And they'd always come to him, and then he wasn't getting any hours and they screwed him out of time. And then, so now he's like, it's easier to be an asshole to keep people away from him than actually have to help them, run them off like a loud dog barking, So,
we had old guys. Like I said, we've had a couple old guys. Like at my old shop, we had old guys that were cool. But I think right now it's nothing but young guys. And you're right. You have a lot of young guys that don't know.
What do you call an old guy? Define an old guy now.
Dudes that are like I think our diesel guy's 58, 59.
They ain't that old. He's younger than our president.
Yeah.
He's still walking up a flight of steps, right?
The diesel guy at my old shop was 67 when he retired.
That's getting up there as a tech to be working that many years, but
yeah.
Well, dude, any tech that's been in it and he's still working on cars and he's in his 50s, you got to give him respect because they've done it a long fucking time and they've put up a lot of bullshit.
Yeah, I don't even want to do this anymore myself. Another 3 years and I think I'm done. I want to wait for my son to get a little bigger. I left for almost 2 years and then I came back for whatever reason. But
I left working for a commercial shop when I was, 26 years old, 27, and I didn't really look back and started pretty much working for myself. And then I go and help out at my buddy shops now because I don't want to be a part of the industry in that type of sense. And I only want to deal with the customers I want to deal with because I don't want to deal with the riffraff of new people that are shopping. There's so many people. The consumers of getting automotive repair are the biggest problem. You
can't even get no one to work on a car right now. Every shop is hiring. Every shop for every dealer, every independent shop, everything is hiring, and it's gotten to the point where they'll hire anybody just to see what you're made out of. Let's see what this guy can do. They're and the problem is that a lot of guys get into this now, I think, and then they go to UTI and they think they're king shit, and then they come to actually work on a car and they don't know jack shit.
Right.
And then you're like, well, what the hell did they show you guys? Like,
they show them the basic stuff.
to me, this is the way I see it. You either got it or you don't.
Right.
We had a guy try to apprentice him. Hey, bro, you're gonna be an apprentice. Come over here. Hey, bro, change the spark plugs on that car. You know what he said? I don't know how to do that. How do I do that? Right. You have some basic idea of where they go, maybe, you know what I mean? Pull up a schematic.
The stop asshole.
Do something.
It's the stop asshole. Is it what you got? Where the guy that comes from the college, and then he's always asking you questions. Hey, how do you do this? Hey, how do you do that?
Uh-huh.
He came in bragging about how awesome he is.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. When I hit the line, I was like that, but I didn't have comebacks. I didn't. My shop foreman used to tell me, he used to just make fun of me and stuff like that. But I used to just talk shit back. But I didn't have comebacks, and I got shit done. And if I couldn't figure it out, I'd go ask the guy that I apprentice under, and kind of refresh myself. But that was just how it was. I'm not so much like that anymore because now there's things that I don't want to touch. There's cars that I don't want to work on, and it's because I know that if I work on it, I'm gonna lose money because I've never worked on one, and the guy that's behind me has worked on all of them. Everyone that comes in the shop, he works on them, and it's like, well, you're a pro already. I tell him, you're one more, bro. You're professional. That's it. You're down pat.
I'm 45 and I've never stopped learning. It's just it's you can't stop as long as they keep coming out with new technology. They're never ever going to master this industry.
Even old stuff. Like I got a buddy. He's the one who got hired with me. He's a little lazy, so I got to help him with stuff. I gotta show him how to read schematics. So that's one thing he's gotten better at because he didn't get shown that as an apprentice. He just R&R, fix this, fix that. Let's get this done, fix that. We're on a time limit. So he didn't get to do a lot of that stuff. So I had to learn that on my own because I was working on diesels right out the gate. I had to learn how to, do all that stuff with wiring. That you have to do all that. So perfect example. Car came in, had a wheel speed sensor code that would not go away. So we lift the car in the air, spin the tire, look at ABS. It's not moving. First thing I said, hey, it's probably a bad wheel speed sensor. It's only a 2-wire circuit and it's right there. Turn the key on and make sure you got power. Make sure you got, your shit. I don't know what happened. He's being lazy. He put a wheel speed sensor in it. Guess what? Didn't fix it. Had to go now I have to go over there. Hey, bro, it's only 2 wires. Then they come off the BCM. Check end to end. We had no continuity from the BCM to both of those circuits. Come to find out, it had I don't know how or what, but I think, you know what? I think something chewed through both wires right under the radiator. The wire ran right next to the radiator, and we found it immediately. It had chewed up wire. So now he has to fix that. But that goes to show you just shotgun parts, especially a simple circuit. It takes 2 minutes to check. it'll bite you in the ass.
Yep. There's a lot of
yesterday. I had one yesterday, and it had a hard code, wouldn't go away. It had a matter of fact, I think it had come from Camping World. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Camping World.
Yep.
So I think they installed some stuff, I think, and then they sent it to us because it had a brake switch input or output circuit code. It would not go away. Brake lights worked, so went and pulled up the schematic, read the operation.
Is it brake pressure, brake position switch code, right?
Yeah. Well, that brake switch has two operations on two different circuits. One is for the brake lights, and one is for one goes to the PCM or comes from the PCM. So the brake lights still work when you hit the brake switch, but it had a hard code for that signal circuit. So he was like, "Oh, well," in my head, I was like, "Oh, it's probably just a brake switch." And then I remembered what happened with him, and I was like, you know what? Let me just check it. Let me make sure. Brake switches do go bad all the time, but let me just check it anyway. Sure enough, no continuity from the PCM to the brake switch. Problem is that on that circuit specifically, it ran through two different jumper body harnesses, and one of them was almost impossible to get to. So I just ran a new wire. I was like, I'm not gonna waste my time. Ran a new wire, fixed it.
Right. It is an inevitable.
But a lot of the young guys will just go, "Oh, let's just put a brake switch in it." You know,
I don't. It's not necessarily about me, singling out young guys. I mean, it's just that I find that most of the time when I go into the shops nowadays, I think it's because there is so many young guys that some guy's been doing his own thing, working on his own shit, and he comes into a shop and he's making some money, and all of a sudden, I don't know if he gets a little ego boost or what the fuck the deal is, but his confidence is way, way higher than his ability. And that's, it's like, you need to come back down to reality here, bud, until I see you, diagnosing cars on your own where you're confidently pulling off diagnosis or completing tasks within, standard book hours, like you ain't shit to me. You're a pimple on my ass. That's the problem. And that's what I don't see. This Toyota Lexus guy really, he drives an old pickup that he's got it's not an old pickup, it's an 01. Drives an old Chevy pickup that's really nice. And he said, I did all the work on that myself. I'm like, well, listen, bro, working on a 2001 Chevy truck ain't rocket science. I mean,
not at all.
I trained my 13-year-old nephew to do work on it. So, I mean, he can literally rebuild the transmission on one of those now. Like, what are you talking about? I mean, you're not breaking the barrier there. And he's like, well, I'm a Toyota Lexus guy. Well, hey, I hate to break the news to you, but Toyota ain't even, that's not something I would consider, what is your biggest achievement as a mechanic thus far? Are you good at diagnosing fault codes at electrical issues? Are you good at, what are you good at? What are you really good at doing? What is your skill? What skill do you excel at? Oh man, I can change any part faster than anybody. Oh wow, so you're a parts changer. Wow, dude, that's a skill.
And see, I used to hate electrical work, and now I was just telling the world class guy the other day, I like doing electrical because I like to, once I get in it, I just start trying to read. I try to read the schematic. I mean, it's frustrating kind of navigating to GM stuff sometimes, but I want to pull up the schematic. I want to see what it does. So I told him the other day, I was like, bro, every time I find a car that's got a lost communication with, something, I'm like, okay, cool. Every time I do one, I feel like I'm going to get better. And every time I do one, I get lost. I start rethinking and I'm like, damn it. So I had a truck come in the other day. It wasn't an accident. And the car came in and had no power steering. And I was like, Okay. So it basically had one specific, it had a bunch of codes, but it's really one specific code. The power steering control module, which is the steering gear, had lost comm with the ECM, the BCM, and every other fucking control module that it goes through. So I start checking everything. I ohm out the 6 and 14 pins with the cars powered down. I got my 120 ohms, so there's no break in the high speed. And I'm checking everything, and everything looks good. And I'm like, okay. I was like, well, at this point, I'm pretty sure it needs a steering gear. Guy goes, hey, bro. He goes, make sure you check power and ground at the control module. I said, yeah, at the steering gear. I was like, I haven't got that far yet. Pick up the car. I got power and ground. Okay, cool. Well, end of the day comes. I go home, pull up a schematic because I get to thinking again. I start looking at the schematic. The only part of the diag I skipped, which I normally don't, is the serial gateway module actually telling the steering gear module to wake up. There's only one circuit that goes to that steering gear that tells it to wake up, and it comes off the serial gateway. Go back to work, turn the key, turn the ignition on, check that thing for power. It's got no power. I was like, oh, what if I have a serial gateway module that's bad? Come to find out, after looking at everything, there's that serial gateway data wake up signal is on two different harnesses, jumper harnesses on the driver's side. Just so happened it was in an accident on the driver's side. I start grabbing all the harnesses, and one of the harnesses falls out of its cavity. So it was kind of odd that they didn't have any other codes except for that one code for the steering gear. Plugged it back in and everything worked. But if you don't go through that, some guys might just go, hey, it needs a steering gear.
So you unplugged it, plugged it back in, and everything's okay and it works?
Yeah, I plugged in that body harness, and the steering gear woke up. Everything was good.
You might have had some terminal threading, or what do they call it? What's the exact definition of it? Terminal
corrosion.
Not corrosion. Corrosion is like general. I forget the term for it, but it's where as it wiggles, they lose contact with each other a bit, and they actually kind of create like
static, maybe kind of
like a dust between them two.
Yeah.
Terminal. I want to say threading, but it's not threading. Terminal. And when you unplugged it and plugged it back in, you made the connection good again.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't. No. It wasn't connected. It wasn't seated. It was on, but it wasn't
seated.
Yeah. So when I yanked on it, it fell out of the other end, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So I plugged it in, cleared the codes, and everything went away. And then the steering started working and everything. So I was like, "Oh, these fucking guys! Whoever tried to rebuild the car after the accident, they just probably didn't push that damn thing back."
Well, that's the way to be. And every tech here on the stream, on the panel, this is how we got to where we got. We listen to somebody if they make sense. We never discount experience. So that's a good comment, Shannon. Now, if somebody comes off and what they're talking about, you already know is complete, total bullshit, we will ignore them.
Next time, I think I should pull the whole harness out and check everything. That might work.
I'm begging for electrical work right now. All I've got is heavy mechanical work, and it is beating me down.
I don't want to work on anything heavy.
Big drum jobs. I got a here.
You want a 3500? Nope, I don't have a rack. My rack doesn't fit 3500. It will, but I don't feel like dying anytime soon.
Why do they put a compound or a series turbo on a small, and then stuff it under a doghouse and expect you to work on it. All kinds of shit. I'm telling you, they're making little diesels run good, but you know, they're still 10, 15 years behind gasoline. Where
I don't know. Have you guys seen this? This was on and now maybe not. I don't think it was on YouTube. I think it was on Instagram. This guy, I think it's like an independent shop, and so they had a Silverado come in, and in the video, it's crazy. In the video, he goes, "Oh yeah, this customer's complaining of a knocking noise." Bring the car, and he's like, "Yeah, it's got a rod knock. You can clearly hear rod knock." And he's like, "Yeah, the car's got rod knock and blah blah blah." And right then and there, if a car had come into the shop that had rod knock, guess what? Here's an engine. Here's a quote for an engine. Or we can pull the oil pan and show you that it's going to need an engine, but it's going to need an engine. Instead, this guy, and I would think all of us here don't work for free.
Hell no.
So this guy proceeded to pull both cylinder heads and pull out all the lifters and say, in his second video, he said, "Oh, look," he goes, "we pulled both cylinder heads and verified for the customer that there's no lifter damage. And now it's going to get an engine." And so I left a comment. I said, "Well, why would you pull cylinder heads if you knew it had a rod knock?
why couldn't you just cut the fucking oil filter open?"
Yeah. Not only that,
rod knock, you cut the fucking oil filter open.
Not only that, you pulled both cylinder heads, and now you're going to charge the customer for teardown.
Now you're liable. Now you're liable for that thing because you got into a broken engine.
It's like, why would you do that? And he's like, "Well, the car's getting an engine anyway." I said, "I know, I get that." And he's like, "Well, and we verified for the customer that it's not lifters."
Good night, Shannon.
Well, a good technician's going to know whether it has rod knock or it has a lifter problem. I said, and on top of that, I don't work for free. You just not only did you waste time, you wasted customers' money if you're charging them for that teardown. That makes absolutely no sense.
Well, that's what I was talking to Chad about earlier.
That's not what we were talking about, Dave. Stop lying.